Welcome everyone to our presentation today, which is a learning lab. And the topic today is using data dictionaries within EOS Studio. Quickly introduce myself. My name is Jon Harrison and I work here at Idera. I'm based in the UK, which you may be able to tell from my accent. And I've been working with EOS Studio for quite a number of years now. So hopefully we can show you some things related to the data dictionary, which are going to be quite interesting. Few logistics. We're using the GoToWebinar software, as you probably realized. This is a live presentation, so the big advantage there is that you can ask us questions. I've got some of my colleagues online as well. So between us, we will try and make sure to get responses and answers back to you. Just use the GoToWebinar question box as we go along. If you've got any questions, and yeah, we'll try and get those answered. Other question that I do always get asked is, will this be recorded? Yes, GoToWebinar is recording it, and following on from the session today, you should all receive an email which will have a link to the recording. That may take until tomorrow to come through to you, but it will be sent out. And finally, we will also at the end just put up a little QR code which you can scan if you do have questions or you want to hang on to that in case you think of anything else afterwards. You can contact us that way. Right, so let's take a look at the basic agenda that we're going to cover today. So I actually thought I'd start off with just a little general topic and just quickly run through for 2 minutes on where we're at with the current version of EOS Studio. And we'll take a look at what's new and what we've upgraded in there quite recently. Again, that's something I get asked a lot on different webinars and presentations that we tend to give. So I thought we'd do a quick snapshot. We'll then go into the main topic of the presentation, which is related to the EOS Studio Data Dictionary. We'll do a quick kind of overview and intro as to what it actually is and also why you might want to use it. And as part of that, we'll cover things like local and enterprise data dictionaries, the different objects that you can store in the data dictionary. And we'll also talk a little bit about some of the macro scripts that you can use to interact and work with data dictionaries as well. We'll make sure to leave a little bit of time at the end, just as another general Q&A session, so you can type in some more questions, and we'll finish off with a little summary. We will spend a fair amount of time in a demonstration of EOS Studio, so we'll go through a few slides, but then we'll get into perhaps some more hands-on stuff. So, quick snapshot of where we're at with EOS Studio. The current version is EOS Studio 20.8, and if we take a quick look at what's new since the initial kind of 20 release, we tend to release point releases fairly regularly, so do keep an eye up on the website. These tend to have a few small updates in them. They're not kind of major releases, they're just kind of small incremental point releases. But there's some quite nice things that have been added actually over the kind of period of time we've got here. So I'd probably pull out a few of them there. We added some brand new integration to work with the Microsoft Purview side of things. Updated our SSO and security integration. That's something we get asked a lot about to make sure that we're up to the latest standards. We also did some work on actually being able to integrate and work with the Git and GitHub environments. So you can now connect and deploy things like your generated DDL or generated JSON directly into Git projects. As usual, we have updated the platform support. So there's been enhancements in our platforms related to Microsoft Azure, Synapse, SQL Server. Also some updates in what we support for Oracle, PostgreSQL, Google BigQuery, and Snowflake. Actually, one thing we did do, which was quite big, was we added a new platform for Databricks support. Again, that was something that a lot of our customers were asking for. And then really quickly, the other final ones, Data Vault macros, Again, Data Vault as an architecture is something that quite a few of our customers use. They asked if there was a way that we could make that a bit more productive. So we included a whole set of macros to help working with Data Vault easier. A few updates on our JSON support, and then most recent update added in really a preview release of what we call our AI model builder. The AI model builder, it's as it says, it's a preview at the moment, but it enables you to enter kind of free format plain text, and it will go off and it will generate things like a logical model with objects for you. So you could literally type in something like, generate me a data model to represent some customer information. This should include orders and products, and as part of that we need to make sure the relationships are in place, etc. And it will go off and generate the data model for you. We're going to do a lot more work on that as we go forward as well. If you want more information on there, it is always posted up on our DocWiki site, and you can go to that directly. It's a public access site, so you can go on there and take a look at the latest versions of what's new, and also detailed information in the release notes as well as what's changed. I apologize, actually, I've just noticed on my hyperlink I've got a 208 embedded in there. If you remove that 208 from that link, it will always take you to the latest page. So as we release subsequent versions, that will be updated there. Okay, quick refresher on EOS Studio itself. Those of you who are a little bit new to EOS Studio, it is made up of a number of different components. So the first one we're going to quickly scan through here is EOS Studio Data Architect. This is the modeling tool itself. So this is where we create the data models, logical, physical models, where we can do things like reverse engineer. We can compare and merge to bring information and share it across the models, and also generate code, whether that's DDL script or whether it's JSON. So the actual work done by the data modelers, the data architects, that's inside EOS Studio Data Architect. We then have some really kind of back-end support services, but these are really important. They add a lot of capability and benefit to EOS Studio. So the first part is we have a EOS Studio Team Server repository. This allows you to share the data models in a central area, and also provides things like version control. Now, it's also really important for the data dictionary side of things, because it enables us to utilize something that we call an enterprise data dictionary. Okay, so that's at the professional level products and the enterprise team edition products, and I'll talk a bit more about what the differences are there between a local data dictionary and an enterprise data dictionary as we go through the demonstrations. And then the final part on the right hand side here is what we call EOS Studio Team Server Core. This really enables you to take the information that's part of the EOS Studio repository. From there, you can then publish it to a web-based interface. So anyone with a browser-based access can then come in, view the information, search for items, and so on. And again, this is really quite a nice piece of functionality when you're using the data dictionaries. We'll show this in the demonstration, but the objects in the data dictionary are published out to this as well. You can search for those, and you can then also navigate and link those back into the data models to see where they're being used. It'll become a lot more apparent why that's really useful and really powerful when we go through the rest of the session today. And that really opens it up to enable you to share that information with a much wider audience. You know, people who are not necessarily doing data modeling, but who might be interested in being able to view the relationships between entities or tables. That's your DBA team, whether it's developers who are building applications, or even parts of the business who might be interested in that. And then really linked into that as well, not directly part of EOS Studio itself, but what we are also able to do is to link all this information out to some specific data catalog and data governance tool sets. And at the moment, we support Calibra and Microsoft Purview. And what that means is that information can be seamlessly synchronized and linked between those environments. And that, again, is really a powerful story in its own right. We won't go into that in detail today. There's lots of other webinars that we run around that whole story. But the ability to be able to go from things like a governance tool to look up information that's relevant to the business and then click through and drill into the details of a data model is really, really very powerful in terms of being able to understand the lineage and understand how things relate to each other. Okay, last few little bits here. And just really, again, a little reminder, EOS Studio is a very flexible data modeling tool. It supports lots and lots of different ways of working. You may be working just on individual individual models, which are representing perhaps relational database systems. You have a logical and a physical model. You may have multiple of these, and maybe some of these are perhaps more JSON or hierarchical format based. Maybe the Google BigQuery using structures and so on. So all of those things are supported in EOS Studio. But again, with the repository, it really enables you to take that a step further, really, and fully embrace and support the idea of having things like an enterprise logical model and an enterprise conceptual model. What does that mean? Well, if you want to start defining things to enable reuse, which are common across different areas of the business, the enterprise logical model is a really powerful and really good place to do that. Now, this is our definition of customer. Again, let me just highlight that there so you can see what I'm talking about. This is our enterprise definition of customer or of order. Now, it may well be that in terms of individual projects or individual applications, we actually use parts of that but extend it further. That's all fine. But what you'll see with EOS Studio is using capabilities like universal mapping, we can actually maintain and understand the lineage here. So I can understand immediately if I'm looking at my enterprise logical model and I'm looking at my customer definition, we've also got customer definitions down at this shopping cart data model. We've also got a customer definition down at this kind of accounting application data model, where we're modeling how we take payments and send invoices and so on. So the universal mappings are a really, really key tool within EOS Studio to support this bigger picture in terms of enterprise-wide data modeling. And on the left there as well, this can also, of course, as we mentioned, link into things like business glossaries, which could be in third-party tools or could be stored in EOS Studio itself directly. Okay. Oh, and I guess the big question for today is, how do data dictionaries fit into this? And data dictionaries really add another layer around the data models themselves. I've pulled out a few object types there, but we'll go into these in more detail. So a data dictionary can support things like domains, attachments, and security info. These can be related to our data governance definitions. They can also support things like naming standards, so that as we're working with physical models that are representing physical table names, we may want to translate those automatically into more business-friendly names for the logical layer. It can help us do things like that. So it's really, really lots and lots of ways that the data dictionary can help us. And one of the key things that I'll talk about in just a moment is the fact that the data dictionary, when we're using it with the repository and enterprise data dictionaries, means we can define these things once and reuse them really, really easily across all of our different projects, all of our different data models, and across the enterprise logical model as well. So really a lot of productivity, a lot of reuse within that the way in which that we're using EOS Studio. Okay, let's get into a few little specifics now about the data dictionary itself. I've probably talked about a few of these things already, so we'll go through this and then we'll pull it up inside the EOS Studio environment itself. So why use EOS Studio data dictionaries? I did just start to talk a little bit about that. First thing is it does enable us to help enforce standards. We can have a single definition of these objects, and we can map those names across the logical and physical models as well. Why is this important? Well, if we're having a standard definition, it lends itself to having that single version of the truth, if you like. It lends itself to not reinventing things again and again. And we can also combine that with really how it enables us to tag and support things like data protection and data governance requirements as well. And we'll see these things coming out in some of the data models that I've got in just a moment. But another key thing really is that by using parts of the data dictionary like attachments, when we apply these to different parts of the data model and then subsequently query them or search on them and find them and extract them, that enables us to find different database objects that might, for example, contain sensitive information. More specifically, give me a list of all the columns in all of my tables where I've added an attachment tag which says this is PII information, or I've added an attachment tag which says this is internal use only. So we can add that kind of level of detail into the data models really easily with the data dictionaries. And the final bit there I think I have covered, but promoting reuse, by having them defined centrally in the data dictionary, we're not constantly reinventing things, and we're really building up that common list of the data elements that we can reuse in the logical and physical models. Okay, and just for reference really, these are the different object types that you'll see within the EOS Studio data dictionary. The ones on the left are probably what I would consider I see most of our customers using most frequently, and also what I think give the most value and the most benefit. So we touched a little bit on those attachments and data security information already. I'll talk more about that in a moment. Domains are really reusable attributes, so we can define standard definitions of our attributes and reuse those. Naming standard templates, very important at mapping between those logical and physical layers. And then there's a whole host of other things we can add in here around reference values, defining rules and constraints, user data types, etc., etc. Okay. And just before we jump into EOS Studio itself, I just wanted to highlight this point. I think this is really, really important just to understand this a little bit. And there's two main points I think I want to make here. The first one is within EOS Studio, a data dictionary can be one of two types. It can be what's called a local data dictionary, and it can be what's called an enterprise data dictionary. Now, a local data dictionary is specific to a single model. Okay, it's stored within that DM1 file. If you're familiar with EOS Studio and working with DM1 files, it's all stored within that model, within our modeling project. I can import and share them, but it's very manual. So if I want to pull in definitions from a data dictionary that's a local data dictionary, I need to ask EOS Studio to import it and read through it and bring it in. So it's quite a manual thing to do. So I'd say the benefit of that is a little bit more limited. Enterprise data dictionaries, on the other hand, these are stored in the repository. And then what happens is you use or you bind them to your data models. Now that means that I can maintain the enterprise data dictionary in a single location, and any data models that are utilizing it will then be updated as I make changes to it. So here, for example, I've got an enterprise data dictionary which is called ADWorks or AdWorks. and I can see over here by interrogating my repository that it's actually being used in 1, 2, 3, 4 different data models. So it's used across all these different data models. So I immediately get access to all of the information and the objects that's defined in there. The other thing that is worth just understanding here as well is that I can have more than one enterprise data dictionary. Now you might think from the wording there, enterprise data dictionary, oh, it's just one, it's across the entire enterprise. That's not the case with the RCDO. In fact, you can think of an enterprise data dictionary really as more of a shared data dictionary. Then I can have multiple of them. Why might I want to do that? Well, maybe I will have one enterprise data dictionary that's across my entire organization. Maybe it only has a small number of objects defined, but they're things that are applicable across everything that we do. I may then have perhaps more regional data dictionaries. So I might have an EMEA or European data dictionary which contains definitions and objects that are specific to rules and regulations for that region. Likewise, I could have a US or an Americas data dictionary which contains information based on that. And I could also even go down to things like a departmental or a project level data dictionary, where we have things that are a lot more specific to individual projects. And my data model could then actually be using, my enterprise data dictionary, my enterprise-wide one, or my organization one. It could also be using my regional one to point to information from the European region, and it could also be pointing to a departmental specific data dictionary. So we can basically amalgamate these together. They're not a hierarchy. They're more a list of separated data dictionaries, but I can amalgamate them together within a data model. Okay, I've talked quite a bit about that through the slides now, so let's just drop out to PowerPoint. Let me just bring up my my little demo environment. Don't worry about the detail on the model at this stage. I know it's quite small on the screen there, but that's not really what I want to look at just at the moment. So I think first of all, I've just got a sample model. It's got a logical model. It's actually got two physical models here, one around Snowflake, one around SQL Server. That's absolutely fine, all standard Visual Studio stuff. If I go to the tab here which says Data Dictionary, over here on the left, I've then got a breakdown. Now, every data model always has a local data dictionary, okay? And here I've got one called HR Data Dictionary. It's part of my model. I don't think mine has anything in it. That one's blank. Instead, what I'm doing is I'm binding to my Enterprise Data Dictionary, my EDD Corporate Data Dictionary. And then within here, I have got quite a lot of different object types to find. So let's just do a real quick run through of some of the things you might find in here. So the first type, just going down kind of in order here, is something called an attachment. We can have any number of these. We can organize these into their own folder structure. So here I've got things that are related to data governance contacts. I've got data retention policies. So let me have a look at that one. Probably not very exciting, but what is it? It just tells me the length of data retention. What kind of value could it have? Maybe it's information that says we can only keep information in this object for 30 days, 90 days, 120 days, and maybe that's related to regulatory approval. And then if we want to basically assign that to different parts of the model, you'll see I can do this at different levels. So I could say I'd like to add this thing here called length of data retention to all of my entities and tables. I could do it attribute level as well if I want to, and onto my views. I'm just doing it at the entity level. And I'll show you in a moment what that looks like in the data model. Likewise, very similar, but because these are really important, they're kind of separated out a little bit as well. we have things that are more specific to data security information. So this might be data compliance mapping. So again, we might have a description here of what this is all about. We could have a list of values. So all sorts of different compliance mappings here. You can obviously edit these. You can have any number that you want in there. I set my default to be GDPR, which is more of a European standard. And then within here, again, I've got it linked to all of my entities. Final one I'll just pull up there, privacy level. Again, this has got a list of values. Is it internal use? Is it regulated? Is it confidential? So I can have any number of these, and I can apply them onto the different objects within my data model. So in fact, if we just zoom in a bit there, directly contact, if I do a quick interactive zoom, let's bring this up a little bit. You'll see on here, I've actually changed my display options using this icon here, the diagram object display options. If I just bring that up really quickly, I've enabled it to show things like I want to show all my attachments, my attachment values, my data security values as well. Okay, so I'm actually seeing these separated out away from my actual columns and my attributes. But there's my governed data, it's true. Retention policy is 90 days. Its mapping is PII. It's got a privacy level of internal use. If I scroll up a little bit, these ones are GDPR and internal use as well. You don't have to show them, but it can be quite nice that they're there and they're very visible to you. Okay, they're obviously stored as metadata as part of the model anyway. They're not in any way used by the, so this type of attachment is not in any way used by SQL code or DDL generation. It's there as additional context, additional information related to the object's usage and so on. And again, as we said, it's really useful because I can then start searching for these things as well, or identifying these things from there also. Really quickly, some of the other things, I'm going to skip over one or two. I can have things like reference values. So I might have a list of state codes or days of the week. Maybe I'll have rules as well. I think this one. I do get asked about this a little bit. So rules can be things like constraints at the database. So this one would actually be mapped. So this would show up in the SQL code saying we're restricting this by applying a constraint. It must be M, F, F, or U for unspecified. Naming standard templates. This is quite an important one. I'm just going to bring this up. A naming standard template does a couple of things. First thing is it allows us to define the kind of conventions that we want to be used within our logical and physical models. So here what I'm saying is that my entities, the names can be no longer than 65, and case-wise, I want to use upper camel. So that means it folds uppercase, lowercase, then uppercase, lowercase. I can apply standard prefixes and suffixes. Likewise, the physical model, this one I've got mine set to all uppercase. So often when you reverse engineer some tables, they'll come through as uppercase. By applying the logical naming here to say upper camel, it'll translate them to look a bit nicer. Again, I'll quickly show that in just a moment. Then the other thing what we can also provide here is as a mapping. And this is basically saying things like, if I have a physical object like a table or an attribute, and it's called ACT, if I map that back to my logical model, I want that to actually expand out to account. Okay, so this is really, really useful to get things to a format that's a lot more business friendly when we're working with the logical level of data models. And again, I can have any number of these defined. When I reverse engineer, it might kick in and it might say, yeah, okay, I found a table called ACT. I'm going to actually rename that to account to make it a bit more friendly for us to look at. And we can specify some other things like kind of orders, priorities, and so on, based on the object types there. When won't go into those today, but the main thing really is that mapping that it can do. So logical, physical, mapping, and so on. Well, I'll show you that working in just a moment, but we can probably see that in the model itself too. And then the final one I'm just going to bring up here is domains. Now, a domain is a reusable attribute. And again, I've ordered and grouped mine into folders. So here I've got some that are related to person or place or thing. I've got others that are related just to address. So the idea here is, again, I'll maybe pick on this one because I know it's got a little bit of information behind it. If we bring up this gender domain, what we're seeing here is that my domain itself is called gender. Attribute, which is the logical name, is gender, so capital G lowercase. Column name, though, the physical model, is all uppercase. And other things that I want to specify are it's got a data type of just a single character, because I just want to store a single letter to say M, F, or undeclared or undefined, whatever we want to call it. Within here as well for this one, I have actually added in rules and constraints. So this is now picking up that rule from here, further up in the data dictionary. So it's picking up that gender rule. So it's going to enforce that for us. And likewise, it's also picking up, I didn't show that one, it's got a default value in there, which is set to always set it to you if I don't override that. So what you'll then see is basically, again, by using the domains, it means I can have a standard definition of something like gender or city or postal code or zip code, define it in my data dictionary, bind that to my data models, and use that same common definition across all of them. Okay, so really powerful in terms of what we can provide in there. And if we do look at my data model here, I'm looking at my logical model. So you'll see, I think, things like salary, vacation days, employee type. I think if we jump down here and I look at one of the physical models, and again, I'll just quickly, sorry, I do my interactive zoom, click the right button. I think I'd know that by now. You'll see that I've got some of these things which have been left as all uppercase. And also are a little bit truncated in them there. So that's basically applied the naming standards template that we had defined there to say I want all of these table names and column names to be uppercase. It's also got underscores in there, whereas at my logical model, we saw that they've got nicely expanded full-time employee with a space in there, and so on as well. So that's what they kind of look like inside the data architect part of your studio. I'm just going to jump across really quickly here to the web interface, the web portal that we have, because again, this provides some quite nice things that we can do with the contents of the data dictionary. And if you haven't seen the web portal, again, we're not going to go into that today, but it's just, I'm looking at my model explorer. It's a bit of a technical view, which is showing me the structure of my data models. This is the one that we've been looking at. There's my little training database that we're looking at, and I could kind of jump into that and see in more detail. But the other thing I can also do is I can actually search across all my data models. So I might, for example, type into here and say something like, let's do a search for anything related to PII. Okay, that's cool. So it's found something called a compliance mapping. That makes sense. And it's part of our corporate enterprise data dictionary. Let's drill into that. And we'll see, we can expand it out and we'll see our values, see the definitions. So it's all the stuff that was in the data model. It's all coming through into the web interface. Now, the other thing that's quite nice here is I can also then see things like, well, let's have a look at where it's actually bound. So here's a list of all of my different, in this case, tables and entities where we've bound that compliance mapping to. Some are set to GDPR, some are set to PII, based on what we've sent. So I could kind of quickly scan down and say, oh, okay, so that's PII. that's an entity. That's for employee. Let's have a look at employee. So it's all hyperlinked, so I can see my attributes. That's all great, and I can see things like my security properties. So there's my PII again. Oh, we've also got a privacy level saying it's confidential. That's all great stuff, and I've probably got a couple of attachments telling me it's governed data. Yeah, that's set to true, and my data retention policy is only 90 days for this one. From here as well, I can also say things like, is this related to any other objects? So maybe I want to explore this a little bit. Is there other stuff that I need to consider? And again, I'll just quickly click through that. And it's showing me now that, okay, there's my employee entity. That's the one that I'm looking at. There's my HR database. And this is linked to a physical SQL server. So there's my table. Oh, and it's also linking back to my corporate and enterprise logical data models. So I could expand those out and drill into those and search through those as well. Okay. I can, of course, go the other way. So maybe if we go to the page here, I might say, I don't know how this is classified or what we're doing with it, but I now got a table somewhere called EMP. There it is. Let's look at the detail behind EMP as a table. There's all my columns. Yep, that's all great. Oh, let's have a look at our security properties for that table. Oh, yeah, we've got a compliance mapping again, set to PII, privacy level. Oh, yeah, that's all good stuff. Then we can navigate through it all. So the web interface surfaces all that information from the data dictionary, how it links back into the different data models. And because it's going across the different data models, that hyperlinking between them all is really quite a nice way of working with it. Okay, you can really click through, follow the route through, do follow-on searches, and so on. Okay, what else can we do in here? Let's have a quick look at using something, how we might use some of these things actually as well. How it's all very well me showing you some of these nice things all on my existing model, but let's create a new data model. So to do this, I'm just going to say it's reverse engineer, and I've got a little quick launch set up here to connect to a little backend database that's running on my virtual machine. SQL Server. There's my list of databases. I'm going to take this one because it's not very big, so it'll happen quickly. And again, I'm just going to take just the tables to make it reverse engineer nice and quickly. Tables is all good. Okay. I'm going to click this little button here which says infer domains. So what that will do is, as it reverse engineers, for each column it finds, it will create a new domain in the data dictionary. What I'm also going to say is, I know I've already got a corporate naming standards template. So there's my kind of names of tables that are going to come in. I'd like to make those a little bit friendlier. So let's click the button and use that naming standard template and also the infer domains. So if we now have a look in my logical model, so you might now see that it has translated those using the naming standards to make them all upper lowercase, so that upper camel, and they've now got spaces in their names as well, all the underscores are all being one name. And in here in the data dictionary, it's actually created those domains for me. So that can kind of help me get going with things quite nice and quite quickly and start creating those. Now, again, that's all well and good, but I've got quite a lot of work to do here. That's all fine. So I've kind of done this before. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to save this amazing model we have here, and we'll just maybe call it, well, we were in September already. Let's call it 0409, so September the 4th, and we'll just call it model 1. Sorry, it's not very imaginative. And what I'm then going to do is I'm going to add this model into my repository. If you haven't used the repository before, it just asks a few questions. I'm going to add in the current diagram. Let's just stick it into my demos folder just so I can find it again. And actually, I want to bind this model to my existing corporate data dictionary. I don't want to do that. And the rest of it, that's all fine. Yeah, let's go ahead. So it might just take it a few seconds to do this. It's just kind of creating the structure of the file and adding that into my repository. So it's basically putting it under version control now. And it'll also employ things like data security settings to control who can access it, who can edit it, who can change it. The little boxes, by the way, I leave those on just so I can see it is actually doing something, but obviously you can turn those off if they're a bit annoying in the options. But it's now done that. We've now got little icons indicating it's under version control. And if I go to my data dictionary tab, well, that's great. We've now got all of our corporate EDD definitions that we looked at earlier. They've all been bound into this data model. So I can actually start using them. So I've got a lot of time to do this, but let's quickly just see how we do that. So I'm going to, just to stop it prompting me and saying that it's not checked out, I'm just going to check out everything really quickly. And again, let's just do a quick check out of the diagram. Okay. So what I might do is I might just go to the physical model actually, and I'm going to change my diagram. Sorry, I'll do that really quickly, don't I? I'm going to change my diagram display options. I can do it from the toolbar, the ribbon control, or I can right click, and most of the options are available there as well. I'm just going to say I want to show these various things that we might be working with. Let's add those there. And let's just select all the objects, and let's also apply maybe a little layout to them as well, just so they look a little bit nicer on the screen. Other things, what we could now do is we could start going into our data dictionary, and I could say, yeah, this is great. Let's have a look at my privacy level that we brought in from the Enterprise Data Dictionary. Yeah, internal use is fine. Let's start adding this into, maybe I'll have that as part of all of my different entities that I'm interested in. So let's do that. And I could also, if I want to, add in other ones of these, we could maybe do the compliance mapping as well, just to go to another one in there. Do that all in there and find that also. And if I now, I think if I just quickly resize those, and again, I'll just zoom in a little bit here so you can see that. It's now just applied those. So we're reusing all those things from that Enterprise Data Dictionary really quick, really easy. Within like 5 or 10 minutes, I reverse engineered a new model, got my tables in, started adding in some privacy and compliance mapping information, not having to reinvent it all. Really productive, really way of working with the repository and the Enterprise Data Dictionary. And we could continue going through there. I mean, the other one I could do is I could, let me do this, should do I think. If I pick up my gender domain, I can see that broker doesn't have a gender. So let's just drag and drop. Literally, I've dragged and dropped my gender into my broker. So if we look at that now, and bring that up, columns, there's my gender column. We'll see that's brought from the domain. So it's already got its data type definitions. It's already picked up that it's got a default assigned to it of EU, and it's got our constraints in there as well. So in fact, if we look at the DDL behind that, we'll see there it's got our check constraints to make sure it applies to that. And it's also got a constraint there related to the things as well. So again, all nice and easy, all nice and quick. Okay. So the other thing I want to talk about really quickly as well is the fact that within EOS Studio, if you're not aware, we do have an API, and built into EOS Studio is a set of macro scripts. So I'm just going to go back to my other model there because it's got a bit more information in it. Macro scripts are really powerful, really useful because you can customize them. So there's a whole set of standard ones supplied. When you install EOS Studio, you should see all these different things in there. So what you'll see here is there's various ones around attachment bindings. So if I want to, I could do an export of my attachment bindings. Let's just bring that up so you can see what it looks like. I'll just move that over here a little bit. So that's the script there. Most of our samples have a little bit of a few comments telling us what it's going to do, but in this one I'm just going to go ahead and start it, and it says it's going to export some information out into Excel for me. So I'll just let it quickly run through there. It should pop up a little box to tell us that it's done that. Okay, yeah, done. And down at the bottom of the screen, it's just now kind of connected to Excel. So it's now basically pulled out that information. So you'll see there things like a list of from a logical model. There's a list of entities and tables. They're bound to the corporate enterprise data dictionary. And there's a retention policy on that one of 90 days. Governance, is it governed data? Yeah, set to true. Sorry, mine are all pretty much the same. And I could actually do a bulk update here. I won't do it today because I haven't got a lot of time, but I could actually change these and then use the corresponding macro, which says over here, bindings import. So I could do a bulk update in Excel, bring those in, and basically use that to update many of those and then re-import them back again. Now, as well as those sample macros, the other thing it's really worth knowing about is up on our website. So I've gone one page too many there. But if you go to the eosstudio.com page, and here we've got resources and macros. And up here you'll find some additional macros, and typically they also have some nice information with them as well. And I'll start searching for dictionary. Okay, there's a couple of things that look interesting. Okay, import and export my attachment bindings to Excel. That looks good. So we get a whole little kind of article about it with some nice screenshots, what the macro is going to do, how we can utilize it. And there's a little example here. So this one's exporting a lot more information. So this will actually show us things like if we've got people designated as stewards and quality stewards with their names, they'll all be exported. Dates and other things will be exported from it. And then we'll get a list of the script in there as well. So again, you can take these, you can add them into EOS Studio, and you can obviously edit, change them, and update them. And there's some quite nice things that you can do with the macros relating back to the data dictionaries. Okay, so I'm just going to jump back here, and I think, sort of while I remember actually, I did upload a PDF version of this presentation to the resources on the GoToWebinar, so you should be able to download that, I think. So all the links should be embedded in there. So actually one of our colleagues, William, is a bit of a whiz at writing these macro scripts, so he does a lot of the extra macros that you'll see up on that web page. Sorry, excuse me. So a big thank you to William for sharing those different macros. So there's a couple of ones that are quite interesting to go and have a look at as well. Right. So let's just do a quick summary, and I will pause for breath, I promise, and have a look and see in terms of questions if my colleagues have answered anything or if there's anything else I want to go through. So Just going to jump back to what we initially started off with around the data dictionaries. So really, hopefully what you've seen there is by utilizing the data dictionary functionality in your studio, it does provide a number of really useful capabilities and also benefits related to those. So that whole thing around, you know, the standards, the definitions, defining things once, but also really standards in terms of being able to define standard names and standard naming conventions for objects at the logical and physical models and doing mapping between those. Again, that's all really, really powerful stuff that the data dictionary just makes really easy. That whole data protection and governance side of things, again, really powerful, makes it really easy for us to define a common list, reuse those across our data models, and then be able to apply them, map them to how things can be used, set the context, and then also search and query them as well. And of course, alongside all that is the whole kind of promoting of the reuse by not having to reinvent things, but reusing them. Just to make it really clear around some of the things we've seen today, I think the first thing to understand is I think for the data dictionaries, having the repository for EOS Studio really makes a massive difference and makes them much, much more useful. So professional and enterprise team editions of EOS Studio give you access to the repository, full access to the ability to create those enterprise data dictionaries, easily reuse them across multiple data models, easily update them in a single location, push those changes out to the data models, and so on. So if you kind of are looking at the data dictionary functionality, you know, definitely have a look at how you use them with the repository side of things. Team server, that was the web interface, the web portal we saw. Again, I think this really adds some really nice features and capabilities around publishing them out so they're available to a much wider audience, not just to the technical data architects. That global search is really powerful. You know, just typing in PII, then finding it across all the models, clicking on the hyperlinks, following it through, seeing how it relates to the other parts as well. You know, great functionality that you can have there. And it helps you with impact analysis, I think, as well, because it's across models. You know, it shows us all the different data models, all the different tables, columns, and that might be impacted by an update or how we're changing. Or we could even search for, you know, show me a list of all my columns where we don't have any privacy information set. That might mean we're out of compliance as an organization. So we can kind of search it and splice it and dice it in many, many different ways. Okay. Useful resources. Again, these links are all in the the document, so feel free to do that. All the webinars that we do, they are all recorded and should all be available. And future events are also publicised as well. There's a really nice one coming up around JSON that my colleague Tim is going to be doing. So I'd definitely recommend that if you're doing anything with the JSON side of things, and especially having things like embedded JSON within relational databases or other data stores. And I'll leave this up on the screen for a few seconds. If you do think of anything else, or if you want to add suggestions into the chat for other topics that you'd like to see us cover in the future, again, please feel free to do that. But let me just have a quick look here.
Hey, John.
Hey there.
Hi, this is Tim. So there is a question I think you could maybe do very quickly. We are almost out of time. Could you show, so the question is about, hey, what if I've got project level data dictionaries associated with many different models, and I want to kind of create or promote one of those to be an enterprise data dictionary? Could you show the kind of the promote and the process, maybe a bit of the process of doing that?
Really quickly, I think we might be able to do that. Let's, if I go to Data Architect here, and let's just get that out of the way. I'll just find one that I've got with a Okay, so this is the model that we created, and if you recall, I did bind it to my enterprise corporate dictionary, but I also, as part of the reverse engineering, I created a local data dictionary, my local model with all those domains in there. So what you should be able to do within here, and let me get to the right place, is that the repository?
More. Yes, here. Create enterprise.
Yeah, it's
the top. More. No, in the more.
Yeah. Ah, there. Sorry, that one.
No, not this one. This one, yes. The first one. First.
Sorry. Yes, I thought I was missing it somewhere. Thank you, William. So yeah, so there's options in there which do allow you to, in essence, promote those up. So you can create a new data dictionary. Was that the right one? Create the enterprise data dictionary, and then from there, as we create it, we can move them up and bind them into the repository as well. So anything that you've got existing, you can do a promotion in there. And I wonder if I actually check that in as well. So yeah, we may look at the actual steps to do that in full detail, but it is absolutely possible to do that as part of the check-ins when you upgrade it and add the model back in there. So you're not losing things basically if you have got existing local data dictionaries that you want to start reusing across other models. There are options from the repository tab up here to enable you to do that.
So the general process would be then, John, to go ahead and use that to create your existing project level data dictionary, use create to create an enterprise data dictionary. And then once that's created in any other project, you could use the bind, the next feature down, to bind to an existing data dictionary. And that would make all your projects using that same data dictionary, which I think it was the answer to the question that was.
I think that's much clearer answer than what I was clicking around there. So yes, thank you for that.
I think that's all the questions we have. I think the team here has answered all the rest of them. So
cool. Okay, so I think we are at time. So I will just leave that that slide with the QR code up there for another minute. But obviously, feel free to drop off and leave us now. Thanks very much for coming along, and hope you found some of that useful.